I Heart Midwives is all about why midwifery matters. So if you're pregnant, looking to become pregnant, someone with a uterus, or even care about someone with a uterus, then these conversations are going to be relevant to your life. Hi, I'm Cheryl. I'm a midwife, health coach, life coach, and educator. I believe deeply in the midwifery model of care where pregnant women and people are fully listened to, their providers get to know them beyond numbers on a chart, and where continuity of care is a normal part of pregnancy, birth, and postpartum. Join us for stories about the history of midwifery, modern midwifery, pregnancy, birth, postpartum, and midwife life hacks. Subscribe for new episodes and share why you love midwifery in the comments. Let's dive in. Today we have Annalise with us. And Annalise, if you'd like to share a little bit about yourself and why do you love midwifery?
Sure. My name is Annalise Levenduski, and I am a mom of four. They are ages 15, 13, let's see, almost 2, and a 2-month-old. And I love midwifery because I actually had 2 hospital births. And for my last 2 babies, I decided to do a home birth. And I felt that the amount of care I got from my midwives was um, outstanding. It was something that I never got to experience in the hospitals. And I think that it's something that every mother and every woman that's even thinking about getting pregnant should have that opportunity to have that level of care. I can't say enough good things about midwifery. I could go on forever. So ask away. I would love to talk more about it.
Well, that's what this is all about because this is all about why midwifery is important and what makes it important. So, you talked about that level of care being different and
Mm-hmm.
feeling like there was a greater level of care. Do you want to share more about like that comparison of the two in your experience?
Yeah, absolutely. So, you know, when I had a hospital birth, it was this is what you're going to do. Um, I was never asked permission for anything. And so when I decided to go with a midwife, something that was new to me was I was always the one in control, which I felt was awesome. But at first, when the midwives were like, "Oh, would you like to do this or would you like to do that?" And may I please touch you? I was kind of like taken back for a minute because I'm like, wait, I get to decide? It's my choice? Like, yes, actually, I do like this. Thank you. Um, so that level of care, even with just the woman being able to make the choice for herself, I felt was something that I really, really liked. And another thing was the way I was treated during birth and the way my babies were treated during birth. Um, the midwives were so gentle and caring. They kept everything very calm. And, right after I had both of my babies, I was skin to skin with them immediately. Delayed cord cutting in bed with my husband. Food was getting made. Laundry was done. It was like, I was like, wow, am I in like a spa? This is amazing. So, it was polar opposite of a hospital where it's like, okay, we're going to come check on you every 10 minutes. Let's take your blood pressure. Let's check baby and let's take baby away and weigh baby. And everything just feels so chaotic to me in a hospital setting, where I did not get that with, a home birth. I was in my own home and I was comfortable and everything was um, beautiful. It was what I always imagined a birth would and should be.
Mm, you touch on so many good points. One of them is about like informed decision making or shared decision making. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and even to the level of, asking, is it okay if I take your blood pressure now? Do you mind if you get your temperature? I'm going to feel your belly. Is that okay? Like,
Mm-hmm.
just even respecting that you are a human inside of your body and that we are another human in our own bodies and we're coming together. I think that that is definitely missed in, the medical model of care where, you might be going in for your appointment and see one person for some vitals and then another person for maybe some other vitals and then maybe the OB will come in for a few
Mm-hmm.
minutes. Um, So, I'd love to ask you more about like in your experience how you like, you know, maybe how is that translated into like your world, like has shared decision making sort of come into your world in other ways?
Yeah, absolutely. I think a lot of it, with my children, even instead of, being mom and a parent, you just automatically are like, here, do this, or here, do that, put this on, do that, eat this. And instead, it's really kind of made me take a step back and realize, like, well, even though you are little and even though you are, immature, you still are your own human and you still can make your own decisions. Some things like food, obviously not big things. um, but it's definitely made me take a step back and, ask them, like, what would you like? Do you care if mommy does this for you? Do you care if we do this? How about this? How do you feel if we were to do this? And the response I get back from my children is amazing. I mean, they're so much more willing to try new things when I ask them and I give them control. Um, and also just, with from day to day things and other adults when you're talking to them instead of, I guess trying to put your opinion on somebody and, um, you know, wanting them to do something your way, just asking them and really listening to them and listening to the why. Like, why is it that you like to do it this way? It may not be how I want to do it, but I'm open to listening to your why.
Gosh,
So I
that's
think
so powerful.
yeah. So
Go
yeah, I
ahead.
just
What were you going to finish that thought?
it's just amazing to me how you can take something, I guess, so small, just like asking a woman her permission, can I do a vaginal exam on you? And then it turns around and I guess, turns your world into something different and you see beyond how you would normally see, if that kind of makes sense. I don't know if
Yeah.
I'm explaining that right.
No, completely. I understand anyway because it really does, take the opportunity to take a step back and listen, like you said, and really, maybe ask more questions and give more decision making power to the person who it's impacting. And,
hmm
you know, when kiddos are less mature, maybe the decision making isn't so impactful in the grand scheme of things because you're like, well, we still have to like leave or we still have to eat. We still have to, do things that maybe at the moment you're not feeling the right
Right.
energy for as
Yeah.
toddlers are. But I bet for your teenagers, that might be like really impactful for them too, to kind of being like, oh, wait a minute. Like, it's not just like me fighting for my choices. It's like, mom's actually interested in my choices or,
hmm
a little bit,
Oh yeah.
yeah, more like she wants to know more of my choices rather than kind of having her tell me what to do.
Yes, that's exactly it. Yep. And I
Mm.
notice that a lot with my daughter. She's way more willing to open up even to me if I kind of allow her to take control, and ask her, what do you want?
Mhm.
And she's just, and I think that's something that every mom wants, especially with a teenager, is to be open and have good communication. So I think it starts, that first time when I'm going to have to take my daughter in, for a checkup, I'm going to make sure that she knows that she has a choice. And, if they don't ask your permission, then, and you don't feel comfortable, you don't have to give it.
Mhm. Oh, I love
Yeah.
that. Yeah, I love how impactful that experience of being with midwives really had on your life and
Yeah.
on your family. Like it's
Yes.
huge.
I mean, amazing. You guys are amazing.
Thanks.
I love it. I love it.
Oh, yeah. So, I'd love to hear more about like a time when you've like seen midwifery in action or like how like midwifery because you're a doula. I don't remember if you actually
Yes.
mentioned that in your intro, but so as a doula, you attend births in all the birth settings. as an emotional support, as an advocate, being able to support people there. I know advocate has kind of different meanings, but really being able
Yeah.
to hold space for people so that they can make choices and have some room to make choices in their birth experience. And so I'd love to hear a story about a time, either from your own time with midwives or maybe a time that you've been at another birth where you kind of saw midwifery in action.
Yeah, absolutely. So I guess when you ask midwifery in action, it really takes me back to my birth just because I just had a baby 2 months
Yeah,
ago. Um,
not
and
long at
almost,
all.
yeah, and almost two years ago. So my first home birth, um, both of the midwives were there and labor was progressing really fast. And then it started to slow down. Long story short, I had about a 15-hour labor, and baby came out posterior. And I can remember I never felt in all of that, I never felt nervous. I never felt scared. I never felt anxious.
Mhm.
And they were so calm. They were so calm the whole time. They were gentle. They just encouraged me, like, let's change positions. Let's see if we can't get baby to engage more. And let me tell you, we tried everything. And obviously that's why, is because he was presenting posterior. But I can remember there was a time where they were like, we're going to give you and your husband a few minutes alone.
Mhm.
And they went and they just kind of stood on my stairs, and they were allowing us to kind of be intimate with each other to try to get oxytocin flowing. And I just thought that that was very kind. I thought that was kind of them, because you don't typically get that in a hospital setting. A lot of times if I'm dueling and I'm in a hospital, I have to remind the partners, like, hey, you can ask for some privacy for a while, and why don't we give you some privacy? Because, as oxytocin, what gets the baby in will get the baby out. So, when they gave us some privacy, things started progressing some more, and they came over and they were again, they just kept their composure, and they're like, we're going to do something that we never do. We're going to put you on your back. And, baby came, and they were so excited, and you could just tell the joy on their face. And it was like, you get to know somebody over the 9 months of care. But they really felt like a part of family. And still to this day, I still consider my midwives my friends. I'm like, hey, you guys want to meet up and go get some coffee, or how about a mimosa? I'm not pregnant anymore. But yeah, they're just they're so kind. And I think by keeping, calm in situations like mine, where I had asked them after, what were you guys planning on doing if things didn't progress? And they were like, well, actually, when we were on the stairs giving you and your husband some time together, we were actually talking about possibly transferring you to the hospital to get you an epidural, because you
Mm.
were working really hard and really, really long, and baby was just not moving, and we could tell you were really tired. And, I looked at both of them and I told them, thank you for not giving up on me, because
Oh.
I never once thought that I couldn't do it.
Mhm.
And it's not that they didn't think I could do it. They did everything in their power to give me the opportunity to do it.
Mhm.
And they did that last time that they were like, we're going to put you on your back. We're going to try one more thing. It
Mhm.
worked.
Yeah.
And
Oh,
yeah, I'm super thankful for that, because I wanted a home birth so bad, and I got it. So
yeah. Those
yeah,
sneaky posterior
amazing.
babies,
Oh,
they just
I know it.
they take a long time sometimes. Well, not always, but sometimes they take a long time to come out. So
Yeah. Yeah.
I imagine your
It
birth
was,
2 months ago was a lot different.
oh, it was completely different. It was a precipitous labor, and he came in an hour and a half.
Mhm.
And the second midwife did not even make it.
Yep. Yep, that happened.
Yeah. So I was like,
Yeah.
I've done polar opposites of both, and I'll take the fast one for my last baby. That's fine.
No. Yeah. Oh, and I love that, like, piece that you're mentioning that, like, how I mean, we have spent 9 months together, and, um, I don't know who decided that 6 weeks was enough to spend in postpartum, but in my practice, I actually see my clients through the first year, which, isn't it's only 3 extra visits, but it extends our time together and just the opportunity for us to connect throughout that first year.
Yeah,
But, just that chance to, continue to have a relationship with these people that played such an intimate moment in your life, like, just I don't know, there's something really beautiful about that.
yeah, absolutely. I mean, like you said, they have such an impact on your life. And I remember, well, Stacy Meredith was my midwife this last time, and
Oh.
she left at our 6 week postpartum visit, and I started crying. I was like, oh my gosh, like I knew that I would see her again, but it was just, that you just get this level of care and like this love for this person that watches over you so well. And she left, and I was like, oh my gosh, I'm breaking
Oh.
down. I told my husband. Uh, but
Yeah.
yeah,
I love
it's
Stacy too.
yes,
Just it's a side
she's
note.
awesome. Yep.
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think that, having care extended through the first year postpartum is so valuable too, just because then you have a provider you can reach out to. And I know, Stacy's always like, yes, please reach out to me. But then the opportunity to just have somebody that is checking in on you at intervals, I think that's
Absolutely.
so good.
Absolutely. Yeah. I think that was one of the biggest things too, compared to my first two births, being hospital births, was I never had a postpartum visit. It was
Oh,
kind of like you take your baby in for
uh-huh.
after a week and they just give you a little checklist. Here you go, fill out this paper. How you doing? You doing good? Okay, good. How's baby? Good? Okay, bye. And then you're kind of like, oh, okay. And looking back at it, I did have some postpartum depression, but I I didn't know. At that time I had no idea, it was 15 years ago. And um this time it was so different with the midwives, being able to have them come to you, I think is, my husband raves about it. I mean, we were just talking to a woman today who was pregnant, and first thing he asked her, because she was having a home birth, he's like, oh my gosh, they come to you, right? He's like, yeah, I heard. He's like, it is the best thing. Oh my gosh, they cook for you and you could just lay in bed. And it was so funny. But I think that it really, really helps. And I think it really helps to like catch, if you are going through the baby blues or you are having postpartum, they're there. And I don't, for me, I didn't ever feel like it was a burden on the midwives if I reached out, even in
Hmm.
between our visits or
Oh
even
yeah.
after our last visit. I still text sometimes like, hey, what's the name of that tincture you were going to give me? Or, hey, is this normal? And they always respond. And I think that that's so lovely. Like, it's nice to know that you have, almost like a teammate, somebody on your side, always.
Yes. Yes, I love that. You mentioned your husband, and was he for a home birth when you first presented it to him, or was he like a convert afterwards?
No, he was all for it. I have
Wow.
to say,
Okay.
yeah,
Cool.
my husband's very like, whatever you want, we will do.
Oh.
So, and my first home birth, it was kind of during the COVID time as well, and I was like, absolutely, I'm not giving birth in a mask. I want to breathe. And it was kind of in that time too, where depending on what hospital you gave birth in, they weren't allowing the fathers in, or if
Hmm.
somebody tested negative, then they couldn't be there. And it was just not an option for us. So,
Yeah.
um, yeah, he was all for it. And we actually did not use a doula the first time.
Mhm.
And we just kind of like looked at each other and we were like, let's just do it. Let's just me and you do it. And now looking back, I'm like, we totally should have had a doula for that 15-hour posterior baby birth. But
Yeah.
and then, of course, this last birth, we planned to have one, and he came so quick. No, nobody made it in time. So funny how
It,
things work out.
yeah, that's just the way it goes sometimes.
Like babies just have a schedule of their own.
Yeah, they have their plans and their schedule, and I'm curious
Yeah,
if that's a little bit how their personality is, you know, the
absolutely.
she was like, you said girl and then boy. So,
Yep.
yeah. So I wonder if she's a little bit more like, I don't know if I really want to do that. A little
Yeah.
slower to like make a final decision. Whereas he's like, well, he's only 2 months old, but I'm curious.
Yeah.
That'll be his
Yep.
personality. He's like, no, I'm just going to go for it.
Yep. Hopefully.
Yeah. Oh, that's so nice. How did you first find out about midwifery? Like, how was that introduced to you? Because you had two hospital births,
I
and
did.
then
Um, I just kind of, so I've always had a passion for birth, from a very young age, and I always knew that I wanted to be a mother. And after having two, for me, they're pretty traumatic hospital births. And I was induced and, all the things. And, um, I just, I just never felt heard. And I honestly just felt like I was like a cattle, like being herded in and out. I mean, it was just like, okay, here's another one and bye, and here's another one. And I knew that I didn't want that. So, um, I had some friends, who was a doula, and they had home births as well. And they had just mentioned midwifery, and they were like, "Oh my God, my midwife was awesome. You would love it. Like, they cook food for you after." And I think that to me was like, "Oh my God, I
it's
guess
like sold you.
I was like sold." Um, so I started looking into it, and then, I actually went on like the state website and looked up all the certified midwives in Colorado.
Mhm.
And then I interviewed just a ton of midwives. And I think actually you and I spoke once.
I think we might have.
And yeah, and I found two midwives that I just really connected with right off the bat. They weren't each other's like backup. But I had asked, like, do you mind? So I had Jennifer Barr, and
Oh,
I was like, do you mind if Stacy is the backup? And then I flip-flopped them this last time, which was really cool for me. And, um, it was really sweet too to see them because, they normally don't work with each other, but it seems like the whole midwifery circle, like everybody is just friends and everybody lifts everybody up. And I love that. I love that. Like, I love seeing them together. I mean, they came to my house and they were holding like arms and they were skipping down my hall. And I was like, this is amazing. Like, this is what I want as my care provider, instead of like going into a bright room and it's cold and you get a different nurse or doctor every time.
mhm. Yeah,
So, um,
I
so yeah,
love
I found
that.
out through, yeah, I found out through friends who had had home births, and then, it was kind of like, well, I'm gonna try it, and give
Mhm.
it a shot, and I fell in love with it, and I think that's what really pushed me to become a doula. Just knowing that I always wanted to be in the birth setting. I actually started going to school to become a labor and delivery nurse 15
Ah,
years ago. Um,
wow.
and then I ended up having my first son and kind of put everything on pause. Um, and I'm honestly, I'm really glad that I didn't go down that path because I really like more of the midwifery model of care.
Mhm.
Um, and I like being a part of that. So
Oh,
it's been great. Yeah.
that's so nice. Yeah, I think that that's not talked about enough that we are a really small community in the grand scheme of things. I mean, I think in Colorado there's like 60 registered midwives, 60-ish. Um,
Wow.
and there are some states with very few and some states with more, but um, yeah, I'm essentially we are pretty, small, tight knit. Doesn't mean, we're like family, doesn't mean we always get along, but
Right.
ultimately we are in this for very similar reasons in that we want to serve, mothers and babies and people having babies and families. So I think that that's
Hmm.
just really valuable and important to like highlight a little bit. It's it's not like written in the midwifery model of care that we have to be like a small community, but like it definitely
Right.
plays into the whole, it plays into all of it, right? So
Yeah, absolutely. Anybody that I come across, I always ask them, like, have you talked to a midwife? I actually have a girlfriend of mine, and she has had two hospital births, and I asked her, are you open? Are you open to having a home birth? And she said yes. And so I told her, I'm like, look, just get, here's a bunch of numbers that I know of,
mhm.
and call them and have an interview. And I feel like most midwives, give a free consultation to
Mhm.
really speak to the mother. And I think that was one of the biggest things too, was right off the bat, you can tell the difference in care that you're going to get. Even in that first consultation, talking with a midwife, nothing is rushed. Um, they let you talk, and I think that that's really awesome, because if, when you go to the hospital, it's not necessarily the case um, all the time. But I wish that more women had access to midwives and really just knew about it. There's a lot of women that just don't even really know about it. I've talked to some women and they're like, "Oh my gosh, that's like a thing." I'm like, yes, it's a thing. It's a big
Yeah,
thing.
it's totally a thing.
Yeah, like you should look into it.
Yeah. Well, and that's, part of my passion is to help make midwifery mainstream again, is because we, historically, this midwives have been, even in other mammals, there's what might be considered a midwife in other mammals where, a group or a elder female is supporting the birthing um, mammal or person or what have you. And
Right.
so I think that there's a little bit of, it's just, there was a very successful propaganda campaign in the early 1900s that um, that really uh, we're still living with the effects of that today. Just as most things with history, where we're still living with the impacts of them today. So
Right.
yeah,
Right. Yeah.
yeah. Hmm. So tell me, I mean, we've gone through several like life lessons or like ways that midwifery has impacted you, but is there like just another story you can share about how midwifery or has created like a life lesson or life hack that you kind of use now on a regular basis?
That's a good question. Um, I mean, I definitely think it's impacted me, just, day to day life. And I look at birth differently now. Um, but man, I gotta say, looking at the toilet is you know, I never knew that, like, hey, if you're in labor, go sit on the toilet. I know that's not really like a life hack, but actually for a doula, it kind of is, like sometimes I'll tell my clients, like, let's go sit on the toilet. I'm like, what? Like, no, really, it'll help. I promise.
Hmm.
Um,
Yeah, it's where we
let's
relax,
see. I
where our
think,
pelvic floor relaxes. So it's a great place
yeah,
to, labor and sit. And I have
yes.
caught several babies near the toilet where I'm like, "Can you stand up? Thanks. Okay, here's your baby. It's time."
That's awesome. Oh, that's awesome. Yeah, and I think too, they've had a lot of good like recommendations for just alternative therapies, postpartum and even during birth. To whereas, I think if you were in more of a westernized setting, it would be like, oh, maybe you should take this medication or something like that. So I think, I guess kind of almost like a life hack. Like I know how to treat things differently,
Mhm.
with more of a holistic approach when it comes to birth and postpartum.
Yeah, and that's actually, a little bit of a foundational like philosophy around midwifery is that, we start out believing that birth is a normal, childbearing is a normal part of life. And then when things deviate from that normal, can we bring it back to a normal state in the most gentle, least interventive way? And I think
Mm-hmm.
because that philosophy is a part of midwifery, like it's sort of part of midwives' experience. And I mean, I'm not trying to group us all together and say we all think exactly the same, but having that as kind of a core foundation that we're like, okay, well, this is just deviating slightly. Is this really a problem, or can we, change our diet or lifestyle or add a supplement or, take some herbs and see if that's a gentle intervention that will help bring this back into normal?
Yeah.
Whereas the Western mindset of medicine is, can we cut it out? Can we, can we,
Hmm.
give it a pill? Or, and sometimes they do use more methods. I think acupuncture is becoming more common in many modalities, um, particularly with fertility. I know that they're using a lot more acupuncture in that world, but
Yeah.
I mean, sometimes like a chiropractic adjustment will literally change like your whole experience of how you're like pregnant,
Yes.
I was like, and that's a
Yes.
very, gentle intervention. So,
Uh-huh. Yep. Absolutely. It worked for me when I was pregnant.
yeah, right.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. It was really cool. So I was a personal trainer, and I'm also a certified wellness coach as well. So a lot of times when I work with my clients, I also try to give them more of a holistic approach to things. Um, and it almost saddened me just to hear how much medicine was pushed onto people. And I've helped a lot of clients um, get off certain medications, and just by using more of like a holistic approach to things. And so when I heard, the midwives were like, "Oh my goodness, try this and try this," I was like, "Oh yes, somebody that like will support that," because I think it's so important. Um, so yeah.
Mm. Yeah, I love that. Well, is there anything else you'd like to share about why you love midwives today? I mean, that is, I think we've talked about a lot of things with the shared decision making and like community and family.
Mhm.
Is there anything else that you'd like to share about that?
I just think, if people are considering a home birth, I just really encourage, like, just don't be afraid. Just reach out, because you guys are also all so amazing, and you really do take the time to give the best care to each individual woman. And I think that's something that I really appreciated, and I know a lot of people would appreciate, is that one-on-one care. Um, and again, I can't say enough good things about you all. I think that you guys are just amazing, and I'm super happy that I chose to have my last few babies at home with midwives. And I really, really hope that, midwifery can become more of a, I guess, let's normalize midwifery, so
Mhm.
to say, rather
Yeah.
than having it be something that seems so archaic.
Yeah, definitely. I think, yeah. Um, well, Annalise, where can people find you? Where could they follow you and hear more of your story and, maybe
Yeah.
watch your kiddos grow up if that's what you're sharing on online?
Absolutely. I have an Instagram. It's just Annalise Doula. And you can also follow me at Annalise Levenduski on Instagram as well.
Lovely. And I'll share the links below in the comments. And I just really appreciate you taking this time out of your day with your nursing babe and
Yeah.
sharing, why you love midwifery. It's just such a special opportunity for me to hear the stories. And I hope that everyone listening feels the same way because it's really an honor. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thank you so much for having me.